Hey, it's Jason here. I'm with Father and Son Gaming, and I'm going to show you how to put together our new Lazy Susan paint stand. So I just put it in an envelope because this is probably how it's going to come to you. Let me get everything out and show you what should be in there. And there are some small pieces here, so open carefully. You're going to have 4 of these little feet. You can come get a little close up of those, Ange. My wife, Angie, is doing our camera work for us today. Thank you in advance. You're going to have a little handful of these brackets here. And you're going to have 4 of these support pieces. And then you'll have 6 of these shelves. Now, the order these go in is kind of important, so we're going to set those aside for now. Okay, so we have the first step here. You're going to want to take these 4 little pieces called feet, and then you're going to take your brackets, okay? Some of these may have some pieces left over in them from laser cutting them. Just push those out with some sort of little pointed tool. Those, you don't need to save those. Those are not necessary at all. They might make a little terrain piece for you later, so if you want to save them, that's fine. Now, it doesn't really matter which end you start with. This is symmetrical, so you can, there's no up or down on these. You're going to want to take one of these brackets and put it in with these 2 little points right here facing down. So I'll go ahead and do that. It should slide right in. There might be a little resistance, and that is by design to kind of let it hold. Now, as you go through this, you're probably going to want to take glue and put a drop of glue on things. So I just have regular old school glue here. I'll just put a tiny drop of glue in there. And I'm going to probably not be super neat on this. This is not going to end up on a game table. It's probably going to get paint on it. So go ahead and glue that. Then put a dab of glue on here and put it into one of the feet, okay? And that should be flush with your table or whatever you're working with. You can kind of work that in a little bit if you want to with a brush or something like that. I just pushed one of the feet, we'll push that little bracket out, but when we get to the bottom, that should all be flush against the table right there. So if you have a screwdriver, or in my case, I have this little pick tool, you can kind of push down on that. Just let that set and dry. You're going to do that 3 more times for each bracket. All right, I've got all 4 of my brackets assembled. Try to square them up as best you can. Now, there are holes that will take additional little tabs here that we're going to put in. I think I'm using different words for different things, but these little support things right here, do not put any in yet. We're going to let this get a little bit dry, and then we'll put the bottom layer on. Now, each set of these shelves is slightly different, so you do have to kind of pay attention to this. I engraved the word bottom on this piece. So this will be the first one we put on, and you'll see that they all have a little star on them, except for the top piece, which has the name of our website on it. Those stars need to always be facing the same direction. So you would never want to take your shelf and put it together and turn the star 90 degrees. All those need to face the same direction. All right, here's our bottom piece. We're going to take one of our 4 legs and thread it through this hole right here. Now, it is a little bit of a tight fit, and you might have to kind of really work that down. One of the things I'm using for this assembly is this little tack hammer here that is probably 100 years old that belonged to my grandfather. So you may have to tap this down a little bit on here, okay? That is something you're gonna have to do 6 times. So I'm gonna, there it goes. If it doesn't slide right on, take a little sandpaper, sand the side, and that'll really, if one of these is a little thick or something like that, you know, it's wood. Wood is not always exactly uniform. So when you do that, you're probably gonna wanna put a little glue on top of the foot, which I wouldn't do until it's slid all the way on there. And that'll give that a lot of strength. And you should see that bracket come in close right there. There'll be a little space right there, but this should be all be flush down here. So you're gonna do that 4 more times. It doesn't matter if it's facing this way or that way. Just put the 4 supports with their feet into these holes. So you'll know it's the bottom one because the bottom one has these little crosses in here so those brackets can slide in. All right, I've got all 4 of my feet in. I'm just gonna tap gently on the top of here. You don't want to hit this really hard and the MDF will kind of fray apart if you go crazy on it. You just want all those to be flush with the bottom of the table because that will make each one of these 4 holes the same height. So now we have the bottom shelf on. We're going to take 4 more of these little brackets and I'm going to throw extra ones in for you. Put a drop of glue on them and just put them inside just like before. The two feet on this thing always face down. So a drop of glue. And again, you can't load all these. You have to put a shelf on and then put a round of these 4 parts on. So that's gonna be happening over again. Don't put them all on in the beginning or you'll be taking them back out because you can't slide the shelves on if you load them all up. So you gotta put the 4 feet on here, or brackets, with the feet facing down. And this one's here is a little tight. So sometimes they don't want to go in, but I just did it from the other side and it went right in. So try that if you have any trouble. And I am just literally putting a drop of glue on there just to give it a little strength. All right, now you're gonna put on one of the layers with the bigger holes. And these are the same, just make sure that the star is gonna be facing the same way on this. So look, here's the star here, here's the star here. It's gotta go on this way. Make sure you don't put this one on. That's the top one with the extra holes, okay? So now we're gonna put our first sort of bigger hold platform on with the star facing the same way. All right, this is probably one of the more essential steps right here. It's gonna be tricky to get all 4 of these lined up. And when you get them lined up, you do have to push down. Now, when I first designed this, I had about 1 inch between these holes, but I'm thinking, you know what, if this was, I want to put paint in there, I want to fill it all the way up. So there's not much space between these holes. What does that do to this wood? Well, if you're going to slide it on here, it's weak out here on the end where the wood is very thin between paint bottles. So you're going to probably encounter some resistance as you go down on here. Don't push or pound out here on the outside perimeter because that's where this wood is the weakest. If you run into trouble, I can mail you another one, but that can get costly for me. So let's just be real careful assembling it that way. I think the best thing you can do is come in here and just start it on all 4 of these. If you get way down on here without having it on the next one, it's not gonna wanna go on. If you have to pound it down a little bit, you're gonna wanna do that right next to the hole. You don't wanna be out here. All right, I had to play with it a little bit and kind of tap around the edges here, but I did get all those on there. As you slide it down, it may try to get ahead of you on one side compared to the other. Take whatever you're tapping with, I'm using my little hammer here, and just try to come down evenly. One of them will probably be stiffer than the other. And the key thing is don't push out here on the edge. You wanna kind of tap really close to the upright brackets. And eventually we'll get it down there. You might have to play with it a little bit. You can see once it kind of rubs a little, there it goes. And now it's still gotta go down evenly. It's not there yet. But you're gonna want to make sure that this is absolutely resting on these to keep it straight. So again, do not, I know I'm saying a lot, but I broke one of my prototypes doing that after I put the extra capacity in. You'll know it's on when you start to see this little hole peek out right here. Once you see that, you'll know you're on the bracket underneath. You have to, all right, everything's seated nice and sound. I just put a little bead of glue in here. And I know some of you are neat freaks, and that's fine. But I'll go around and do that on every side. All right, now I'm gonna put another set of the little brackets in. So that'll take me 1 little second here with a little bit of glue. All right, I'm already on the 3rd shelf here, which of course it's gonna be little holes, big holes. So I've got my little holes, my stars are lined up, and again, I'll just kind of tap this down. Now these ones are stronger than the ones with the big holes, but when we get this down there, we'll glue it again. And then we'll put on another set of the big holes. I'm not gonna make you watch every step of that because I think you've probably got it by now. All right, this top piece is probably my weakest piece. So when I talk about not, flexing it out on the edge, this is probably the most important one. Your star right here. Just put the website over top of it. Line these up again. Sometimes it can be a little tricky, but just take your time. And remember, I'm not pushing anywhere out on the perimeter. And sometimes you gotta kind of flex this a little bit, okay? Once it gets completely together, it's gonna be a lot stronger, but there we go. Let's see how I'm tapping very close to the inside perimeter. And as soon as I see the top of that little hole peek out right here, I know I've got it down all the way. And that is your final step after you put, well, you're gonna put a little bead of glue on again. Try to do this one neat since it's on the top. All right. And you've got your paint holder, which holds somewhere around 70 bottles of dropper paint. All right, we've got completely together. The glue isn't even dry. And once all those joints get put together, this thing gets a lot stronger. I don't want to sell these. These are available at Walmart, Amazon, anywhere you buy stuff. So I don't want to pay to ship those to you, or you have to pay and increase our costs. So you just throw this on your Lazy Susan, and really saves a ton of space on your work table compared to others. Some have told me like they're a little worried about it, tipping over, but it's pretty good. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could hot glue it or just plain old glue it to the Lazy Susan if you were concerned. It is about 9 inches in diameter when it's done. Holds 78 dropper style paints face down. I'll load it up and get you a picture of it. Here it is, built and full paint and on a Lazy Susan, which just to remind you, you'll have to get that yourself. It does hold 78 paints. It stores them upside down with lids facing down. It's pretty easy to get the paint in and out, even if you have big hands. We're really happy to add this to our store, and we hope that the assembly went easy for you. I'm Jason with Father and Son Gaming. I hope your rolls are all 6s.